Hello, everyone, and sorry for being so very late. The technical issues have maybe been resolved, but we'll see how it goes. As you can see, it's me and Dan today, and yes, Ross and Jack are off playing cricket, so it's left to us two to dissect the goings on of the fourth day of the second test between England and India. Dan, how are you, first of all?
Yeah, all good. Fascinating day's cricket. I watched most of it today, and yeah, really, really good. And just wanted to know one thing, like Max. Do we have any news of Jack and Ross's success on the pitch today?
That's a very good question, actually. I have not heard anything which suggests that they maybe were batting first for once, because normally the plan is to bat second so they can all have a drink. Although someone was asking for Jack's order from the shop for cider, so maybe they are in fact batting. But yeah, no
We don't
news
know.
yet.
We don't
Of
know if Ross has hit his third century with the Woodstock cricket bat yet.
No, not yet. But I can only assume several sixes. A lot of love for you for getting you for back days, Dan. Um, Before we get going, I'll just a quick reminder to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Apparently, we have two audios playing at once, which I will try and sort out. Uh, how does that work? Is that better, or is it still echoing? Uh, yeah, should also still echo. Right, okay. Who is echoing? Is it both of us or just me? Oh, now it says perfect. Okay, well, let's assume it's fixed and we'll carry on. Bingo, better, excellent. Uh, Sorry about that. This is my first time in charge of doing this stream. So as you can tell, it's gone really well. Um, yeah. So uh, please do like and subscribe for more technical hijinks, and and follow on Twitter and Instagram at the Cricket Pod. And after that excellently professional start, we'll get on with a quick summary of the day's play. So really, I would say today it was the perfect day's cricket for someone who likes really long afternoon walks on a Sunday. You can start watching maybe the first hour and a half, the first 2 hours just before lunch. Lots of excitement. You know, England making the perfect start. KL Rahul going early, followed by Rohit Sharma falling into the classic Johnny Bairstow trap before Sam Curran snaffled Virat Kohli before lunch. Then you could probably have just switched off for about 4 hours, unless you really like watching Pujara and Rahane shut up shop, and not just shut up shop, but then put the shutters down and lock up and throw away the key before returning for the last couple of hours of the day to see a bit more excitement. I mean, this might all be from an England point of view, but yeah, it was very much bookended by action today's play with a lot of stuff in the middle, and now Dan's echoing apparently, so that's great. uh, well, let's throw it over to Dan, and because I think we'll start with we'll go chronologically. We'll start with the first session and how things went, and it was very good. A very good session for England, I think. Definitely as much as you could possibly have hoped for. Really, getting the three big names out who've been scoring the runs. But was that what do we think that was down to? Did England get their plans right? Were they the reason England's plans and Joe Root and the bowling, or are we thinking maybe some questionable batting on the Indian side?
Rohit the questionable one, but then the plan worked. I think with that he tried to repeat the same shot that he'd already hit for six, I think, and moved Mo a bit and went straight down his throat. Good catch from Mo. But they wiped off the 27 deficit at the exact point that the Rohit got out, so they were effectively 0 for 2, and Finally, we saw Sam Curran make things happen. I think it's taken 9 days of this series for him to make something happen, and finally he's done so. But I'm sure that won't stop the commentators thinking that he makes things happen every hour that he plays. So yeah, good session for England, and they were in the driving seat, I think, by that stage.
Yeah, I think we had a little joke between us, didn't we, about Sam Curran making things happen.
Yeah.
And now that he's secured his selection for probably the next 5 Test series after that. I mean, on that, Virat Kohli, what's going on with Kohli? I mean, we thought he'd cracked it in England, hadn't we? He struggled at first,
Yeah.
came back, hit a load of runs, and we thought, yeah, Virat Kohli, he knows what he's doing now. He's got it all sorted. But we've seen him look a little fragile recently.
I think I know his problem.
Yep.
He hasn't played county cricket. Because that's always the problem for England players.
So only for England players.
As well, yeah.
Well, yeah, he was going to line up for Surrey, wasn't he? Was it last year? And then
if he hadn't pulled out of that, he'd have got a century here.
Right, so that's what we're putting it down to. Yeah. Without being so flippant and glib, what do we really think is going on with Virat Kohli? Is it a technique thing, or is it mental? I mean, for me, I can only see that it's being some sort of psychological thing. You know, we've heard a lot of him. There was that interview, wasn't there, with Dinesh Karthik about how he was planning to approach things, and he firstly it was I'll just bat, and then it was I'll just leave anything on a fifth stump line, and I don't think he's done either of those things. I mean, then there was sort of, he was having a little laugh and a joke with Joss Buttler the other day. Then there was the sort of verbals with James Anderson today, who probably isn't the guy that you want to be having verbals with, because we all know how well he bowls when he's fired up. I mean, do they seem like things that could be problems for him? Are they signs that he's not at the races, or is it just one of those things?
Interesting. I'm not a technical analyst. Much more data driven. So it's difficult for me to say, he's got technical issues or anything like that, because I genuinely am not the right person to ask. But I think as you say, it's a mentality thing. I think there's 2 things. One, I think that he a lot is in his shoulders. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Obviously, KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma have batted pretty well so far generally on this tour, but Pujara's kind of not done a great deal. I got 45 at a very slow rate today, but there's situations where he's often coming in, probably 2 down and not a great deal, or there will be anticipated for those scenarios. And I think there's a lot on his shoulders. I think he feels a lot of responsibility as captain and the linchpin, the absolute elite batter of this team. And I think that maybe he's not ignoring the noise right now. And I think that those that you mentioned about the sort of the verbals with Jimmy, and maybe he shouldn't get drawn into that stuff. He just needs to block all that stuff out. And I guess at that stage, Jimmy wants him to be drawn into the verbals. Jimmy's winning at that point, and getting him rattled, he's taken that as a positive. And he's better off just blocking it out and just cracking on and focusing on his own game rather than getting into an argument with England's premier bowler.
Yeah, we all know he's got the game to do that, so I'm sure he'll come roaring back in the next few games. We did get one question on Twitter, which was, would the England team be better off without Kohli? And maybe the experience in Australia was more than a coincidence with how it went without him in the side. What do you make of that one? Ross isn't here to suggest that that's a strong argument. What do you say?
I don't buy that argument really. I think that he's still a world-class batter in this format. I don't see that there's an abundance of better batters than him, so I think they're better off without him at all. Captaincy wise, I think my thoughts on captaincy in general have been well discussed on this pod over the last year or two. In terms of, I don't think that there are many, if any, elite level captains who are so significantly better than others. So I certainly think that captaincy genius is something that's overrated and a false narrative from the media. So From an irreplaceable perspective, I think it's more Kohli the batter rather than Kohli the captain, if that makes sense.
And yeah, Kohli being in the the touted big four in the world. So I don't think there's much of an argument there. So I mean, yeah, that's a bit on India's batting. I think it's worth talking about how England approached that first session. There were a few things that I quite liked. So I think there was a bit of leg slip action, which is I'm always a big fan of seeing, and I think the fielding was excellent as well. I mean, for there are a few times where we've lambasted the English players for not taking their catches and things, but they did hold on to their chances in that session. I thought there was a lot more energy in the field. So is that a win for Joe Root on the captaincy side this morning?
Wouldn't go that far. I would. That's the standard that should be expected. It's the benchmark. It's not a win, I don't think. And I think that there's quite a few people have tweeted stats about England's catching over the last year or two in Test matches. It's near the bottom of all the teams around the world, and stuff like that's free. You don't need to be a big team to be able to improve your catching. If
someone should remind my team of that fact, because we lost yesterday, and I think we counted at the end that there were 8 drops.
Yeah, well, there's been a few games in the 100 which have been kind of decided by poor fielding as well. So yeah, no, I'm not a massive buyer of that as a captaincy win. I would just go down to that. That should be the expected standard.
Yeah. What about the bowlers? I mean, Mark Wood getting Rohit into the trap. I mean, Rohit. Surely we're looking at Rohit there and saying, "What are you doing?" Oh yeah, he'd smashed 1 for 6 in that over. Yeah. Do you need to go and chase that next one?
No,
that's on him, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because obviously he was trying to play that sort of counter-attacking innings, and then we saw Pujara in particular play the complete opposite to that. So you wonder whether that's what the team orders were, or whether there were any team orders, because the 2 innings have been completely different. So was Pujara told to shut up shop because Rohit got out quickly?
Does Pujara need to be told to shut up shop?
Probably not.
Does he have another mode?
Yeah, well, that's it. And on that Pujara point, I think it's important to make that the extra differentiation is that Pujara 45 for 206, the strike rate just under 22. Now, if the teams are flipped and Sibley played that innings, I can guarantee you that Twitter will be ablaze with criticism. What's he doing? Ruining the chances of winning the match and stuff like that. No one. As far as I could see on Twitter, there was very, very little comment on Pujara doing that for India.
Yeah, well, I think there were we got a couple of people on Twitter. I think Akash was one. He asked maybe whether Pujara is Sibley's idol, and I think
it's all to do with the person and the agendas. I think of a lot of the media people. I don't think that's right. But what we've seen here with this innings is that Pujara playing that innings has markedly dropped the win percent chance of both teams and increased the percentage chance of the draw. Now, we were talking, I think I spoke with Jack the other day about this kind of concept. Yeah. If you're not the best team, then that's generally an okay strategy. If you're the best team, it's a poor strategy because you want to maximise your win percentage and you don't want to decrease your draw percentage. But if you're behind in the match, I think that's absolutely fine. And in the context of the match, I don't really have a major issue with Pujara doing that.
Yeah, so that was actually the next point that I wanted to move on to. So you've anticipated that beautifully. Yeah. Well done. I agree. I think there was a lot going on, wasn't there? It was a lot of Mickey taking really of Pujara in that innings. How long it took him to get off the mark, the cheer for the 100 balls that he faced, and then just before he got out, they were talking about the slowest 50 in international cricket for India, which was, I think it was 236 balls or something like that. So he sadly missed out, although he was well on track for that. But I think the way he played was exactly what was needed at that time, especially, those 3 early wickets fell and suddenly you're like thinking, another one falls and England are right in with a shout here. And that was the point where, it was taking it deep, wasn't it, and making sure that as much as anything, it was sort of trying to maybe give a platform for Pant to come in. I mean, you're looking at that and thinking if Pujara and Rahane can, take the edge off the ball, because that was the point in the game where the ball was actually doing a little bit before. Apparently, there was some mischievous action with someone treading on it. Well, we might cover that in a bit. I saw it pop up in the chat. The ball did start to not do anything after a little while, and that's where you think, having seen off that tricky period, is when maybe you would want the likes of Rishabh Pant to come in and then take the game sort of more in India's favour. And I think that's what they need now, isn't it? I mean, probably a word on Rahane as well, to say very well batted by him for his 60 odd, and just another example of when Rahane's under a little bit of pressure, he comes out with a pretty important knock in the context of a game of cricket. He gets a bit of a rap, doesn't he? He's always the first man on the block, so good for him to once again put in an important shift. But I mean, that takes us on to Rishabh Pant now batting with the bowlers, and that's for me the key, right? Is it?
Yeah, that's going to be box office tomorrow. That's got to be box office.
Yeah.
I mean, Ishant, Siraj, Shami, Bumrah, obviously, it's not far off. Well, not a million miles off being 4 number 11s, and at some stage he's going to go for it. Whether he wants to try and see off a new ball first, I'm not quite sure, but yeah, it's going to be. I think that he's either going to. He's going to be there for a good time and not a long time tomorrow, potentially. But that could change the course of the game as well, because, quick 50 or 60, and suddenly India could be setting England 250 in a session and a half. And actually then I would say that would make India favourites.
Yeah, I think so. What we're looking at is that 156 is the lead now, which is still getting towards the territory of it maybe being a bit tricky to chase. Moeen was getting it to turn a bit, so with Jadeja in there and quite a few right-handers in the England side, that's still not going to be a comfortable chase. So I think Rishabh Pant, if he, like we're seeing on the chat, if he adds a quick 50 at the start, and he has to do it quickly. I mean, that's the way he bats anyway. But he's not going to have people with him who are going to hang around for very long. He's got Ishant Sharma, Shami, Bumrah, and Siraj. You've got basically 4 number 11s there. Ishant Sharma can stick around a little bit, but it's going to be on Pant to bat with the tail. And a quick 50, and even anything above 200 becomes a tricky chase. And again, the time to bowl England out is not necessarily going to be there. If England are chasing, say it's like 210, say that he scores another 50 and England are chasing 210, and they've got 2 and a bit sessions to do it in, do you think England will go for the win? Or do you think they'll do what they did against New Zealand?
I think it depends on how well. It's actually a logical answer would be to say yes. But then you think of the top 3 and you think they're probably not going to score quickly. So maybe what they can do is lay a platform and then maybe evaluate from there and go and see. You might see, like, instead of Hamid coming in at 3, you might see a Bairstow coming in at 3 or a Butler coming in at 3 if Burns and Sibley have a solid opening partnership. But the options are there for sure in that situation. I'd be really disappointed if they tried to bat it out and just took the draw.
Yeah, I think everyone would be, but it's just the kind of thing I can see. Bearing in mind the argument they made the first time, which was that we want to stay in the series, the 2-match series. It was really important. This is even more a case of like trying to stay.
Even though they're at home, I kind of think that England are the underdogs. So an underdog should try and have the the highest variance. They should look to try and achieve high variance outcomes, because that's what's going to get them wins. And I'm not, if they're chasing 210 on the last day, I'm not massively convinced they're going to be in many better spots throughout the series to get a win.
Yeah.
And so therefore, I think it's going to be viable that they should go for it.
I would totally agree with that sentiment. I think if you've got the opportunities to win the test in a series where you may well not have many others, 100%, gotta go for it. But there's a very interesting morning session to see through first, to see where we end up. We've there's a couple of people messaging on the chat suggesting that maybe India are missing Ashwin for this game.
Yeah, I mean, now we're seeing Moeen Ali bowled really well today, and he got it to turn. You think if 210, say they did get 210 lead, and they had Ashwin and Jadeja playing, I would fancy India's chances. But it's difficult to know in advance that there was going to be a spinning conditions. Only one wicket fell to spin in the first 2 innings, so it was probably quite difficult to foresee the need to play 2 spinners in advance.
Yeah, I think that's the fact that we've had a reasonable amount of dry weather, I suppose, and there's been a sense that Lords has taken a bit more spin than normal. This year. I mean, obviously that's led to Moeen Ali's recall, and I assume you're delighted for him as.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I know he's got some personal goals that he wants to try and achieve. So and all players want to play Test cricket. So delighted for him personally that he's got this opportunity for sure. I think every player still views Test cricket as the pinnacle of cricket. So that's it's really nice for him to get that call up for him personally.
So where we are now, then. We'll go back to reality rather than talking about what if the target is 210. With the situation the game's in right now, Dan, what's Western Viz saying?
Western Viz.
Viz.
What?
You can come up with a new name if you like, but that's what I'm starting with.
Well, the first hour is like utterly crucial tomorrow. It's completely vital. I said to Jack yesterday, I think Google win predictor was the wrong way around. I think it had India at 30 and India at 30, England at 40, and I would have had it the other way around. I'm still thinking that in India, I'd rather have the runs on the board at this point. If they can get 200, I think they're well in this. I really don't fancy England's chances on day 5 on a turning wicket potentially with scoreboard pressure. Anything over 200, India favourites for me. Lead, I'm talking about.
Yeah. I always think in these sort of situations as well, I feel like 200 there's like a psychological point at which chasing 200 plus seems so much more than chasing 196. I don't know what it is, but it seems to me like that extra 10 runs is mammoth. So
the target for India has got to be 227, or it's another 46 runs minimum.
Yeah.
And obviously, a day out from Pant or an hour out from Pant, and you're going to get well past that.
Akash has just absolutely nailed it, by the way.
Go. What is
Dan Weston.
Dan Weston. I love that.
Very good. Well done. Big fan of that. Love a pun. I think it's 50-50 genuinely. It's all on that first half an hour to an hour, isn't it? And I think actually with England probably, they'll be taking the new ball in the morning. Again, it's even more in the balance, isn't it? So, either it'll swing around and it'll get a nick, or the ball being harder means it'll fly all over the place. And I for one cannot wait and seriously hope that I don't have a meeting at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. But I think I might do, which would be unfortunate. But that's that's how it is. So it's all set up for a pretty exciting day tomorrow, day 5. That's another example of why 4-day tests should never be a thing once again. And can't wait. I think in terms of the day's play, that's pretty much it from what I wanted to cover. Unless you had any more thoughts before we move on to the elephant in the chat and some Twitter questions.
No, no. Yesterday I had to stop Jack from moving on because we needed to discuss Jarvo, but there was no similar incidents today.
Well, you say that there was. And this was I completely missed this, but that was mainly because I was following on the airwaves today. I spent a lot of time painting, so didn't have the visual cues, but there were a few things.
Not the room you're in currently.
No. As you can see, that's very much not been dealt with yet. So a few images flying around Twitter. There was a picture of the ball under someone's boot and some shouts of ball tampering. To which my response was, "Well, please show me a video because that shows nothing." And the video showed basically a little bit of football between a couple of the bowlers. I think someone passing. You couldn't see who it was; you just saw legs. But someone passing the ball to someone else who stopped it with the front of their toe, where all cricketers will know there is a spike. It's been dubbed like Spikegate in the YouTube chat. I'm not sure we're quite there yet, but what do you make of that? Have you seen it? Are you aware of it?
So this afternoon, I will admit that I didn't watch all of the session this afternoon because when Pujara was batting, I actually needed to catch up on some sleep. The situation was exactly the same.
Sometimes we might need to bottle a bit of Pujara as a cure for insomnia.
Yeah. But yeah, I have seen some pictures on Twitter, and it's difficult to say. I mean, it doesn't look good, but I think sometimes you say that the only people who know whether it was intentional or not are actually the people who did it. It's difficult. But yeah, it's I saw this picture. It doesn't look great.
Yeah, I'd say in politics terms, the optics aren't very good.
No.
The optics are bad. James Anderson and Rory Burns apparently, and I think it's one of those things where you kind of, as a cricketer, you probably know that you shouldn't be doing it. Don't you? It doesn't look great, but I think the only saving grace for them is that nothing seems to happen with the ball in terms of how it behaved. It's not obviously no way excusing anything if they were trying to be cheeky, but for the benefit of the game at least, it didn't seem to do anything, and I don't think the umpires saw a need to change the ball or anything like that. So let's see what happens over the next few days, I think, and whether that gets brought up by the match referee or anything like that. We've got a live update in the chat, Dan, from how IDLCC did. I think Jack has logged on, and they lost sadly by 40 runs to I believe a team that they see as real rivals because of a previous fixture in which their behaviour was less than pleasant. So that's sad, but I'm aware that a few. Having, you may all have seen our live stream, not from Lords, on Friday, where we might have been a little merry. Ross was there again on Saturday with another one of our players. So I dare say there were a few sore heads and even sore livers in the I Don't Like Cricket Club, and I think we only had 10 as well.
Was Ross still batty when he was drunk?
Probably.
Yeah.
One of them said they were too hungover to bat properly, which is exactly how I was yesterday. So I understand. But commiserations, boys. Sorry to hear that. Maybe you should have just sacked it off, and you'd have saved us from all the technical issues that we had at the start, which definitely didn't happen. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just a little bit of time to move on to some Twitter questions. I think a lot of them we've covered already, just in sort of general chat around how the game's gone. But how about this one from Vinay? Who is better value for England in Tests, Sam Curran or Moeen Ali?
That's a good question. I think that it's not an either or scenario, because obviously their skill sets are completely different in terms of one's a pace all rounder, one's a spin all rounder. So I think that you can make a case for both of them or one of them or none of them, depending on the conditions and the opposition and things like that. So it's a difficult one in terms of an absolute argument. Bat plus ball. in terms of bat plus ball value is an argument that I quite like in Test cricket, actually. So having that taking into account not just someone's bowling value but also their batting value as well. And so if you look compare, say Sam Curran to Jimmy Anderson or Stuart Broad, he doesn't need to be as good a bowler as them because he adds bat value. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously he didn't in the first innings, but that's just one innings. I like having England having this depth because their batting's not very good, and I don't think that I need to sugarcoat that. I don't think their batting's very good. So having guys like Moeen Ali, Sam Curran down the order, Archer, if he was to play, he hasn't done much in Test cricket, but he can bat. That's a real positive. And if England can produce more runs from their last 4 or 5 wickets than other countries, then that will partially make up for their batting issues. So I've got no issue with having that extra depth or all-rounders in the side.
Yeah, I think, like I said, you sort of you try and make up for a lack of Ben Stokes through like 3 or 4 other players, I suppose, in terms of the balance of the England side.
That disrupts the balance massively. Ben Stokes being out as well.
Yeah, and quite rightly, people are pointing out that both Sam Curran and Moeen Ali play for CSK, so I obviously would have them both in because they're both heroes.
So I've got CSK. Start that again.
Yeah, looking forward to that returning, and hopefully CSK can kick on from where they were. Or I don't know if the England boys are going to be there, are they? So maybe.
You got my RCB face mask.
Yeah, well, it'll be full-time bandana now, won't it? Because obviously, I don't know if everyone heard, but apparently COVID's over in England. We can now just do what we want. So it's great. Yeah, well, I think that's it. I think other Twitter questions we've covered just by general chit chat. So hopefully you're satisfied with our responses to those. And thank you all very much for tuning in. A little reminder just to like and subscribe for more excellent dissection of cricket and late live streams. Apologies once more for that, but hopefully next time Jack will be back. So someone who knows what they're doing will actually be in charge. And follow us at the Cricket Pod. And just lastly, Dan, can you remind everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. I'm on Twitter at S8Advantage.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and looking forward to seeing how the day pans out tomorrow. But until then, thanks for watching and cheerio.